Hi friends of JM Pro TV, so we are at the final day of this conference and now we have the presence of Edgar Villanueva. How are you, Edgar?
I'm wonderful, so happy to be here with you guys.
And so we're broadcasting live. We want to let you know that it's 11:30 and you can send us some questions if you want, so we are connected and we're going to try to speak with more people. But basically going back with Edgar, so people is asking about the releasing of your book. So please share with us, what is that book about?
So my book is a provocative analysis of sort of what I call the colonial dysfunction, sort of the dynamics of colonization that exist in the finance and philanthropy sectors that make it really challenging when you look at the inequities in terms of where funding is going. Funding is not going into communities of color at a rate that is equitable. So I'm really trying to help funders and folks who control access to money and resources to understand the history that the accumulation of wealth has, the trauma that has caused on communities of color, and then to think about using their resources differently to help actually repair and heal communities from that trauma.
And I was reading the interview that you got with Gita. I don't know if I pronounced it. Yeah. And so there's one part that caught my attention, which is it is important to support communities of color, but it's more important to go to dismantleize white supremacists.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I mean, funders, philanthropists, putting their money on the table to support, yes, that's very helpful. But also what we're asking is folks to look into the mirror and to do a deep analysis of, our own contribution to the system and how dysfunctional it may be and the harm that the system has caused on communities of color. So we need to do more than just fund in communities of color. We need to really listen. We need to be in genuine partnership. We need to find ways to create seats at the table for folks who have been marginalized and learn from them and let them really drive the solutions for their communities, right? Because we know best in our communities what we want and need to thrive. And so, yes, definitely more than money. It's about being in a true relationship. We're all human. We all want the same things. And so finding that middle ground of coming together and looking beyond money at our humanity and the trauma and the pain that we've all been through as human beings, and finding a way to, think about a collective healing process that will make us, push us all further ahead.
And talking about the history of the colonialization, so we're starting, more than 500 years ago, and how is that linked to this actual moment, especially in terms of the wealth and
Yeah. So, I mean, when I talk about colonization, I mean 500 years ago, but I mean also as recent as yesterday, right? So we're not living in a post-colonial society. The underlying mantra of colonization is to divide, to separate, to exploit. And we see that still happening. We see what's happening right now in this country with children that are being separated from their families, right? We see how, redlining and other systemic policies that are happening. There are intentional policies in place right now that are keeping people in poverty that we need to examine. And so that's why I call it the colonizer virus. It has infected us. It's infected our policies. It's affected our school system. It's infected, even like design, how buildings are designed. And so we need to examine that colonizer virus and how it shows up in our work, and then begin to dismantle that. But yeah, we're talking about right now.
Yes, exactly. And so one of the things we learned in this conference is that the money that support our movement, it's mostly from the collective, from the people, more than for big organizations. How can we improve or make that contribution better?
I think that's wonderful that, most of philanthropy actually happens from individuals who are giving to causes they care about. And so that's great. We have to make space for others who may not agree with us politically at the moment, but by asking and creating opportunities to give, that might be actually an opportunity to bring folks in and to politicize them and to educate them about issues in our communities. Foundations, I believe, who contribute not as much, but also a big amount of the funding that's going into this work have a lot of work to do, but I believe are ready for a more real conversation about dynamics of power and race and privilege, and how they have also contributed to sort of the colonial framework and how they might participate in dismantling that.
So, and we have a question here. So about let's see. Okay, so what, as a philanthropist, so what is the most need work to do for contributing to the change?
Wow. So from a philanthropist perspective, I think starting with ourselves, right? Often we're thinking externally as funders. We're thinking about, what is our theory of change and our logic and model? What are the needs in the community? And, that's great, but we also need to think about our own baggage and our own work. If we can, do our own work and healing around race and power and our own orientation to money, I think it's going to make us a much better partner. And so the book that I wrote, Decolonizing Wealth, actually was written in mind for folks who are funders, who control resources, asking them to, take a long gaze in the mirror and think about, personally how they show up in this work. And whether you're a person of color or a white person or indigenous person, we all bring a history and an orientation, a perspective to money that needs to be examined, and how we might be contributing to sort of a colonization mindset, or how we might be helping to repair and unpack that.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Edgar, and a pleasure to have you here. So and thank you very much for being there. Thank you for your questions also, and thank you for that. We're going to let Edgar leave, so it was a pleasure to meet you.